tough loss for Dallas. I'm not going to sit here and everyone say, oh, see, they got exposed. They're frauds. I think Dallas is still a really good NFC team, still probably in that cream of the crop. And like I said, that doesn't change my outlook on either of these teams. This win kind of just the NFL happened. Like really good teams happen, and they're good players. But all right, John, what do you have to add on? What's your perspective?
All right, I'm just going to start with some of the hot topics that have really been talked about after this game, and I'll just knock some of those off. All right, first up, the Dak Prescott interceptions. The first one, I think a lot of people are at fault for that one. I do blame Dak partially because it just didn't seem like the play was fully going to work. It was very reliant on the concept being executed fully, and I don't blame him for assuming that your players are going to execute the concept properly because it was a timing route. But just when you kind of watch it back, it was kind of a congested area. It would have been a tight play to make regardless. Schultz deserves blame on that play because as Greg Olsen, which by the way, shout out to Greg Olsen because I don't really love his commentary most of the time, but he is really good at explaining tough football concepts to the viewership in a very simple, concise, well-spoken way. So shout out to Greg Olsen because he very quickly explained what happened on these plays. But yeah, so on the play, CeeDee Lamb was sort of, as Olsen said, riding the wave right behind Schultz. Schultz was supposed to go up and then hit sort of like a post route and take the safety deep. And then Lamb was supposed to do a flat in route right behind it. And that would, clear out the middle. Schultz did not hit the post route deep enough. And so both him and Lamb were right next to each other, and that allowed for the interception. That being said, like I said, I do blame Dak because maybe the guy would have jumped it anyway. It was a very tightly congested spot. But I also kind of blame Kellen Moore there. It seems like a play that needs space, and there wasn't a whole lot of space. So right there, Schultz, Dak, and Kellen Moore, I give blame on that one. The second one, I blame everything entirely on CeeDee Lamb, and I know people want to blame Dak. This is another timing route, and simply put, this is something that CeeDee Lamb has struggled with since his rookie year, and it's kind of frustrating because it's literally just a mental error, and that's CeeDee oftentimes when he, based on the route, he needs to cut in front of the face of the safety. Once again, Greg Olsen described this perfectly. And I know that this is the case when Michael Irvin, Dez Bryant, Chad Ochocinco, a lot of Hall of Fame or elite level receivers in their time were talking about this exact play, saying that's on CeeDee Lamb. He needs to cut in front of the face of the safety. He chose not to. He does this thing where sometimes he feels like the play isn't there and he just kind of gives up on it. And that's what it looked like happened. He didn't cut in front of the safety. He just went behind him and then turned around like, oh, what the heck? Why'd you throw to me? That's on CeeDee Lamb. He's got to be better, especially if he wants to be the number one receiver of the Cowboys. And I know he had statistically a great game, and I would say he did redeem himself later in the game. So I'm not going to sit here and act like he was the fault for them losing. But that specific interception, that's a timing route. Dak was under siege in the pocket, and CeeDee just has to be better there because Dak is trusting him to cut in front of the safety. So those are the two interceptions. Next, I'm going to start with the overall first half. The game was all right, but the Packers very clearly were able to run the ball effectively. And this is something that has kind of worried me because the Cowboys defense as a whole has been really good, but a lot of teams have been able to run on them. And that just concerns me, right? So when they played here against the Packers, Aaron Jones, 24 carries, 138 yards, a touchdown. A.J. Dillon, 13 carries, 65 yards, both average over 5 yards a pop. And this isn't the only time. When they played against Chicago, Khalil Herbert had 99 yards rushing on the ground. You add in Montgomery and Fields, and they were well over 100. You throw in week 1 against the Buccaneers, Leonard Fournette, his best game of the entire season, the only game before the Seattle game in which the Buccaneers were able to run for over 100 yards. The Cowboys' run defense has not been great this year, and I think the overall dominance that they've had on the whole season has kind of overshadowed that, I guess. And so it's just something to look out for. Can Dallas fix the run? Dan Quinn was asked about it point blank and said that they have the personnel to be able to do it. That's why they traded for Jonathan Hankins, kind of an under the radar trade. But like you said, they're a little undersized. He's a big body. That's why they got him. So we just got to see what happens here. It was unfortunate. They have been dealing with some injuries. Anthony Barr was out, which is why we saw a lot more Micah Parsons at linebacker. Anthony Brown did get hurt in this game, so we saw Kelvin Joseph playing on the outside corner spot, and we got to see a lot of him because he was guarding Christian Watson. And then obviously Jordan Lewis, he is out for the year. He got hurt a couple weeks ago, and we saw a lot of Deron Bland, and all like those two corners just did not do very well. So yeah, the run defense is pretty poor. Also, like I said, the depth at corner concerns me. Kelvin Joseph, he was on the outside after the Anthony Brown injury, and Anthony Brown allowed that first touchdown to Christian Watson. So he didn't have the greatest performance either. But Kelvin Joseph on the other side, he did pretty poor. Deron Bland, he allowed 4 catches on 5 targets, including a touchdown. The whole secondary just had a poor day, except for Trayvon Diggs. Aaron Rodgers only targeted him once. I don't know if that was just because Allen Lazard was, covered well. I don't know if they were scheming to try and beat the other corners. I don't know if it was just simply put, hey, we're running the ball effectively. Let's just not turn it over. And the easiest way to do that against Dallas is just not throw at Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, he can be beaten coverage sometimes, but we don't want to risk it fully when they got some rookies and a second-year guy who hasn't really panned out on the other side. I don't know what it was that led to that, but the whole secondary deserves blame there. So not a great defensive performance. And for all the people who are, Dak's the reason they lost this game. Yeah, that's why Dak allowed 14 points in the fourth quarter to the Green Bay offense, who had just dropped 5 straight games. Really unacceptable performance from the Cowboys overall. Like I said about the Broncos, you're coming out of a bye week. You're playing the Packers, who, yes, they're the Packers. Yes, it is Aaron Rodgers. Yes, the reputation from the past decade is there. But as you can attest, this Packers team has lost 5 straight games. They just put up 9 points against the Detroit Lions. And I know that's a divisional game, so things can kind of get wacky there. But this was just an unacceptable performance from the Cowboys. And although I'm being incredibly negative right now, you move on to Minnesota next week. They're still 6-3. They're still primed to make the playoffs. They still have a relatively easy schedule the rest of the year with Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, like quite a few other losing teams on the docket. But the main issue I had with this game was a lot of the issues that I saw last year that I thought maybe they had fixed this year. They creeped back up, and it worries me that maybe they'll hide it again during the easy portion of their schedule this year, and then come playoff time, if we see another game that happens exactly like this one, there you go. That's kind of what I see happening. So the only positive side of that is, I guess, maybe this puts pressure on Mike McCarthy. You didn't win your revenge game against your former team, and it was not a great game overall, despite the fact that it was close. Like this should have been an easy win. Well, not easy, but this should have been a confident win where you come out and you look strong, and that's not really what happened. So maybe that means there's pressure on him and he gets moved on from in the offseason, or maybe he responds to the pressure. I'm not sure. But overall, this was just kind of an unacceptable game from the Cowboys. Also, I didn't talk about overtime yet. Tony Pollard, the guy's balling out. 22 carries, 115 yards, 5 yards per carry. He's got a touchdown. And in the overtime, they ran the ball with him 4 times. On those runs, he had, let me try and find it. On those runs, so the first run he had in overtime, he ran for 7 yards. Then the second one, 7 yards. Third one, 9 yards, but it was negated by Jalen Tolbert lining up offsides. Like, why is Jalen Tolbert in the game?
I texted you. I remember I texted. I said Jalen Tolbert shacked in a fool, because also he's looking at the side referee. All you got to do is like put your arm out, and the referee will tell you, "Hey, you gotta like just." I remember that from middle school football. The ref will tell you, "Hey, you gotta, you're not lined up." Like, take the second to do that, and he did. Sorry. Shacked in a fool.
Just for the record, too, Jalen Tolbert reportedly asked the ref if he was good, and the ref told him to scoot up. If you go watch the All-22 film, that was a lie. He did not ever ask the ref. He did not hold his arm up. He did not point to him. He didn't even make some head nod. There was no asking of the ref where he was. He just lined up offsides. So a 9-yard gain by Tony Pollard, negated by Jalen Tolbert being offsides.
Or useless
and
penalty.
And then Malik Davis.
Sorry, 20.
Yeah, useless penalty. Completely useless. Because he wasn't even part of the blocking scheme. He was just outside. You can line up so far behind the line of scrimmage and be okay. And then Malik Davis ran for 16, and that was negated by Connor McGovern holding. I thought it was a ticky-tack call, but then when you watch it back, yeah, he was holding. So just goes back to the issues that they had last year, that you just can't have that. And so then all of a sudden on third down, that's when the Jair thing happened. And yes, that was a pass interference. Jair got away with one. That being said, you're playing in Lambeau. Like, you kind of got to expect these things. And like, there's a built-in home field advantage everywhere. If this is in Dallas, that gets called. Like, that's just how it is. And as I always say, if it comes down to a flag, you didn't do good enough on the game. It is frustrating. I'm tired of having to say that, but that's just how it is. We look at the Vikings, that game against Buffalo, on their fourth down play where they didn't get it, Buffalo had 12 men on the field and the rest didn't call it.
Yeah.
So and they still came out with a win. So you just got to fight through it. Every team has to deal with the refs.
And didn't they say the Gabe Davis catch shouldn't have counted either? Yeah,
Gabe Davis catch shouldn't have counted. So the Buffalo Bills got some breaks in that game,
and we're at home.
But the Vikings still they're at home, and the Vikings still came out with the win. So it's not impossible. You got to be better. But I don't have issue with them going for it on fourth down. I just feel like if you knew it was fourth down territory, with the way that Tony Pollard was playing, why would you not just run the ball? Worst case, you don't get it. You were going to go for it anyway. And best case, you do get it. It's first down and you keep moving. And based on these previous 4 runs in overtime, Pollard for 7, Pollard for 7, Pollard for 9, negated by a penalty, and Davis for 16, negated by a penalty, they were getting almost a first down every single time they ran the ball in overtime. Just run it. I don't feel like it was that complicated, and that's a coaching thing. That's on Kellen Moore. That's on Mike McCarthy. It's just, I don't know.
And it's a shame.
Like I said, it's
a shame too.
The third down play isn't. Sorry, go ahead.
The second down play was a great play though too. That's a shame because I was sitting there second 19. I was like, okay, we're good, and then boom, they hit the 16-yard pass to Schultz, which was a very great timing route. Yeah. And I was like, oh damn, now it's third manageable. And then
exactly. And the third down play was fine. Lamb did beat Jair off the line on the slant route. But still, I don't know. I just feel like the logic of if we're going to go for it on fourth down, I feel like there wasn't foresight there. I feel like they called the third down play expecting to get it, and then they made the decision to go for it on fourth down, to where, if you're a really great coach, okay, if we don't get this, we're going for it. And you decide that ahead of time, which you can tell the offensive coordinator and the quarterback that. And that gives that changes the way they're going to attack the play, because they know they have another chance after this one. So I don't know. Frustrating loss, because this really should not have been a game of the loss. You go up into the fourth quarter, you're up 28-14 against a team that has dropped 5 straight games off your bye week. The Cowboys should not have lost this one, and that's the end of my rant. Hey guys, thanks for watching this clip from the Shut Up and Ball podcast. If you want to see weekly NFL and NBA content, click the subscribe button. Don't forget to like the video. And if you want to watch the full episode that this clip came from, click right here.